Hello everybody, my name is Rob, and in today's video, I will be going over as hopefully quickly as possible as a faster entire turn sequence for my supplement for the tabletop RPG mouse ritter called Mouse Crawl. It is a solitaire journaling map making supplement for that specific TTRPG. So, what do most tabletop RPGs have in common? We have generally boiled down the three most common things in tabletop RPGs. Number one, the players are in a situation. The players then take actions in reaction to their situation. And then number three, the players are in a new situation because of their actions, and then it loops back around and it continues to go that way. So, what does that mean for Mouse Crawl? Since a big part of the game for Mouse Crawl is moving between location and location, and that is also the first thing that we do in the game. It is the first thing that the player does on their player turn. And we do this in the defining locations phase of the player turn sequence. So how do we define a location? Well, first of all, we have to decide whether or not a player is leaving a location, staying in the same location, or going back to a location they have already visited. But since most of the game is based on going to a new location, we will be covering that. And if we have time, we will cover the other two options. But essentially, if you do either of the other two options, you will be able to skip a couple of phases and steps that I'll go over to in a minute here. So again, let's say the player has just taken their first turn. They've completed setup. They defined their first location, and they have decided to move to a new location. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we have to define the location that we are moving into. And because this is a journaling game, we need to give the player lots of information to write down, but not too much information so that they don't feel like they are getting bogged down. This is my journal here, and this is a game in progress, so we are going to use this to demonstrate a full turn sequence. I have demonstrated a full turn sequence in the introduction video, but hopefully this will be a little bit faster, so that interested players do not have to watch an hour and a half of my rambling on and on about my game. So, first of all, since we have decided to move to a new location, how do we define this location? So, one of the first things that we do when we are in a new location is we take a quick look around and see what kind of location it is. In Mouse Crawl, we define this as location types. So we need to see what our location type is. We call that defining locations. So let's go ahead and see where we are at, or where we are going, or what we are getting into. To do so, we roll a 2d4, and then we keep 2d6, and we keep the lowest. Let's go ahead and get our dice here. So our lowest is a 5. And that means that the biggest thing about this location is that it according to this table, is that it is in a river. There's a large river rushing through the area. So let's go ahead and make a little depiction of our river. And let's say that the players decided to move into this location up here in the north. Continuing the river from the southwest tile there. Now, to give the players more detail for their journal, we encourage the players to figure out and find out more about their location, just to see if they can add or change or do anything to it, more to it, just to give it a bit more character and to give their journal a bit more character. And I also encourage players to hold back on writing stuff down just in case something dynamic comes through gameplay, and they can use their creative writing to create a varied and a diverse journal entry for that location. So, and then to do that, we call it defining locations. And again, to take that part of the turn, we need to define locations, as you can see here. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to read it. And then we need to give the location a bit more character. Now, why do I split these up? Well, because as I've explained in the previous video, the player has this special power. And this special power allows them to manipulate the dice in certain ways. And one of those ways is they can move the dice up or down a value. And why do I split the dice rolls up here? Well, on occasion, the player may or may not want to have a little settlement, as what they are called in Mausritter, or a village or a town or some sort of fortress or keep, or a inn or something like that, which otherwise would make them a safe haven for the player and their characters. So just in case the player really needs to have a settlement or a safe place, they can use their special power to manipulate that die roll, if that's what they want to use that special power on. Then they can use it there, but otherwise they will have to try and decide when to use it and where to use it anywhere else they may want to. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this part of the phase. I call this phase detailing the location. Because the more detail you give a place, the more you care about it, and the more a player is engaged with the gameplay. So, the first detail we need to find is what is the largest thing or the largest object in the piece of terrain that they are at. To find that out, we need to roll a d20, and we call these landmarks. So let's figure out what sort of landmark is in this river-based area. It is a 10, and to figure out that, we go to the Mausritter rulebook. And let's see, And because point crawls and hex crawls are so closely related, I just decided to use Mausritter's hex crawl toolbox to figure out things about these points. And it honestly just works really well with this point system and point locations. So I just decided to go ahead and fold that into this supplement, so that the solitaire player does not feel left out. So let us see what a 10 on a river location gives us. The river location here is in between a muddy type area. There's a lot of water runoff, and this area of the river is fairly muddy. Okay, so in our journal, let's go ahead and interrupt my turn here. And let's go ahead and write down where the players are at. Let's call it turn 60. Turn number 60. And what are we going to say? Let's go ahead and say this. My apologies. I have a bad case of sinuses when I'm making these videos. I do not know why. I'm trying to do my best with what I have. Okay, so when I am going through the player turn sequence, I give the players pointers and how-tos and how to write down their journal entries. And this is one way to do it. And this is a way that I recommend doing it. So let's see then what's next. Okay, we have our landmark. And the landmark is a bunch of muddy fields. Okay, and let's see. And now we see a bit more. Now we want to give it a bit more detail. And to do that, we need to roll a d6 and a d8 on the Mouserotor landmark details table. So let's get our... Hang on, I forgot I had a special d8 for this. And there we go. Take this one and put it away. It's a lovely orange-yellow color that looks like cheese. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our d6 and our d8 here. Now, again, the importance as to why I'm splitting these is to see if the player wants to use one of their special powers on one of these rolls. So they can use their special power on any roll, but if they really want a safe spot, they can decide to use their roll here. That is up to the player. So let us see what else is in this location. We got an 8 and a 6. So both of them are very high. Oh, and for Mouserotor, this would be a human settlement. This would be a human settlement type area, but because of the setting that I am using, it is in a highland location, and now these highland locations and these highland settings are very dangerous areas, much more dangerous than usual, much more full of magic than the normal kind of areas. And because we rolled a highland area, if I'm using this correctly, we need to take a look at the highland table. I think I am doing this correctly, but I may be incorrect. Let me just check here. Yes, I am doing this incorrectly. So, let's just go ahead and go with what we have. And that is something that I have not apparently thought of. So, let's go ahead and see what we have. We have a 6 and an 8. So let's see. Here's our number 6, and here is our number 8. A repurposed human construction. Okay, so let's see. What we have that the humans have left behind. Oh boy. let's just say a water pump, since it is by a river, and let's just say there is a large water pump here. Water tower, an abandoned water tower. Here, that could be a base or a little safe spot, but because of its disarray, it's not used by anyone, so it is just sitting there taking up space. So now we have, I believe, most of our terrain covered, and let's go ahead and get that in there. And try and get the muddy flats in as best as we can. And there's our water tower. And that looks like a complete tile. So let's see. This is all still very much a mess right now, but it is being looked at. So we have a good idea of we have a good idea of where we're at. Now, how do we, what is one of the other things that we do when we are in a location? We look for ways to get out of a location. And I have just recently changed this because it felt less cluttery and felt less confusing. Because the players want to move and keep moving, the players need to look around to see if there are any obvious ways out, any obvious roads, any obvious paths. And to do that, we go ahead and do a find path. There are 8 directions leading away from any location, and to figure out if there is a path, if there is a path in the if there is a path, or if there are any number of paths leading away from the location, we need to go ahead and find that out. We need to pick a 2d4. Number of paths there are, because there are only 5 paths per location, because there are only 5 player characters. So, to figure out how many paths there are leading away from the location, we roll the 2d4 and we pick the lowest. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And it's a double 2, but that doesn't mean anything for this roll. That means there are 2 paths leading away from this location. Now, there are 8 directions leading away around the path. Now for where those paths are, and we can roll a d8 for each path to determine which direction it is taking. And it runs clockwise from the top. So 1, 2, 3. One path is leading to the east here, and another path is leading northeast. So that may be on the river still, we don't know. So, before the player can decide whether or not they are leaving or staying or going back, they have to figure out whether or not they are safe or marginally safe in that location. and they still need to see what kind of situation they are in. Let's go ahead and make a note of our water tower. Okay, now, to see if they are safe or marginally safe and not being attacked in this location, we need to perform a search check, or as I like to call it, a hunted check, or a hunted to see whether or not the location they are at are haunted. It doesn't necessarily have to be a ghost, but anything that is hunting or haunting or hounding the players, they are in a haunted location. So first of all, we need to take a look at our map again. And our map has a monster activity rating of 10. In order to see whether or not we are safe, we need to roll a 2d20. We need to roll a 2d20 and pick the lowest. If it is greater than or equal to the monster activity number, then we found a monster to fight. So with this low rating, it's kind of in the middle, so we don't know whether or not we are going to run into a monster or not. So let's go ahead and see if we run into a monster. Combat for this game is just the combat that Mouserotor uses. There is no special rules here. You do have to kind of narratively figure out if you go first or not, or you can roll a dexterity check to see if you go first or the monster goes first, if you would like to do that sort of thing. So, one more time, here's the rules for the haunted location. Now, because I want to try to get through these rules as quick as possible, let's go ahead and do two things. And number one, I am going to say, I'm going to say how it might be when there is not a monster, and I'm going to do a kind of quickly as possible combat round for when there is a monster. So, because there is not a monster right now, I can go ahead and make a bulleted point that says if the roll that we made or make is not going to have a monster, then this is what I would write down. However, because I do want to share a combat example, this is kind of the bullet journal entry that I would make. First of all, let's see if we actually do run into a monster or not. Pick the lowest. Here it'll be this number 7 here, but because we do want to run into something, let's go ahead and let's pick, say it is 12, and that we are fighting monster number 7. So, when you decide to play a game, one of the things that you need is you need a bestiary, and you can find this bestiary currently on my itch.io page over at Claybrick Entertainment. But you do not have to use this bestiary. You can come up with one on your own. You can use another bestiary from somewhere else, just so long as there is roughly 20 monsters, and that the creatures go from difficulty from 1 to 20, from the least difficult to the most difficult, and with 18, 19, and 20 being the most difficult monsters, and with 20 being a warband scale boss monster that should be very difficult for the players. So let's see. Fortunately, we are saying we rolled a number 7 here, a lucky number 7, which is a one. Okay, let's not use that one. Let us use because in this bestiary, I would need to grab a deck of cards, and we do not have time for that. Let's say we green pudding. Let's take this green pudding here. All right, let's take a look at what the green pudding has. They have a HP of 14, a strength of 6, a dex of 11, and a will of 24. Damage called Acid Spit of D6. And then some critical damage and a bit of lore there. Let's see. Let's go ahead and make a note in our journal. And I have not done so yet, but I will encourage players to use a system that I am using to make keeping track of things a lot easier. So let's go ahead and say now, in this narrative example, I might say that the players were surprised. However, that would require a bit of time. But again, we don't have that since I want to attempt to keep this under an hour. So, however, if it were the monster's turn to go first, then the monster would attack, and then the player would go. But because it is the player's turn to attack, the player is going to go first, and the player is going to roll their damage. So let's go ahead and do that here. Now, to keep track of things, I write down what I think is the most important stats for combat, or the most immediate important things for combat. And for the green pudding, and for this system, it is the strength, the HP, and their first attack. So for the pudding, that is again 14 HP. Strength number 6, because strength determines whether or not after you take down all of their HP, the strength determines whether or not it will be able to come back and fight. And let's take a note of its immediate damage capabilities, which is a D6. And depending on whether or not the party does kill this creature, I will go ahead and show what it looks like when the monsters attack. So, let's go ahead and have the party attack. I have the party ordered in the order that they attack. so it is much easier to figure out where and who goes first. So that would be Kettle. Let's just go ahead and give her. They all have a D6 or D8. Let's go ahead and roll a D8. And you can be narrative with the hits as you like, or you don't have to be. That was bad. But yeah, a roll is a roll. So let's go ahead and write that down in a bullet. And here's how I keep track of the stats. Because it is much easier doing it this way that I have found out for me. Let's see, we have another character here. This one just got an upgrade. He gets to roll 2d8s and pick the highest, which is 4. Okay, let's see. Who was that? That was Ezekiel, who I'm calling, nicknaming Easy. That was 4. Yeah, 13 minus 4. 13 minus 3 is 10, plus 1 minus 1 is 9. So let's see the next one goes. And that is Jacob, and Jacob also has a D6, D8. And that is a very nice 8. So let's see, what did I say it was? 9? 9. 9 minus 8 is 1 left. And hit protection in Mouse Rider is how many hits they can take, not exactly when they're going to die. That is kind of what strength does. So let's try and hurry along through here. Let's see, this guy was very lucky and got a magic sword, which, again, gave him a deal building. Pick the highest is 3. So that brings HP down to 0, leaving 2 left. 6 minus 2 is 4. And when they do run out of strength, that is when they ultimately die. Who was that? That was Frank. Am I forgetting somebody? I feel like yes, I do. I do not remember how much Jacob did. You know what? Let's just go. I believe Jacob. I will have to watch it again. Let's just say Jacob does 8. And this here is Frank. I'm nicknaming him Frank because that just goes nicely. Frank does 3. And Timothy has a habit of turning enemies into paste, so let's see if he does that with this one. D10, he has a nice large attack hammer. And he does do a 9. Which is enough to turn this poor little slime into paste. But unfortunately, he has a little special thing that lets him attack the party at least once. So I can show how a monster attack would work. So let's write down what Timothy does. Okay, so let's go ahead and give the monster attack an attack turn just to show how that works. And in case you noticed, several of these creatures have varying attacks and varying abilities, and I will go over that in a separate video. So let's give the monster an attack. It is, again, a d6, and when a monster attacks the party, you can split the damage throughout the party. So let's go ahead and see how much the monster does, which is a 3. And let's say the monster does this. And who takes that damage? Let's see. It doesn't always have to be the one with the highest health, but you can also split the health among the party. So that's what I have been doing. So let's just go ahead. For upkeep's sake, let's say it hits Timothy, which brings his HP down here, down to 6. And that way I could show how upkeep works. There. 3, and we can say how this happens. And then let's just say narratively that because this is the creature's last hurrah, let's just have Timothy return the hit and eventually finally turn it into paste. So now, the next thing that the player can do during their turn is they get to patch things up. When I first looked at Mausritter, I realized that there was not that many patch things up. Like there was not a lot of health potions. There was not a lot of healing magic. One healing spell and magic is rare. So if you're in a situation like this and somebody is nearly bleeding out, and you're trying to desperately find something to help them, you're out of luck, or at least out of luck for a while. So, because of my experience trying to do these things solitaire by myself, I added another special item for this supplement that I am calling flasks. And flasks, while they can be actual potions and actual health potions, what they are really are, say, it is a way for a character to patch something up. And it can be a weapon, it can be a scratch, it can be an attribute, it can be things like that here and there, because there was so little patching up in Mausritter. So the player keeps track of those on the party captain's character sheet here, and right now we have 15 flasks. So we could use those to patch up the character, fix things, repair a weapon or a cloak or something similar. And during upkeep, we can also take our rests, our long rests, our full rests, our short rests, and we just have to make a note of it in the journal. So, here is one last look at what to do during the haunted locations phase. And now we go over to the player upkeep phase. During player upkeep, flasks can be used to restore attributes, HP, fix armor, gear, weapons, points, remove conditions. I am not certain or not whether or not I allowed flasks to be used as a ration. Sometimes when I was writing these things down, I am very sure and certain of things, but when I was playing, and I was getting low on food, and I thought, oh, I'll just use, and then I thought for a second, and I thought, that sounds a bit too powerful, and I do not remember if I did write something down like that or not. So, I do not know whether or not that flasks can be used for rations. I will look up that, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it is not. So, during player upkeep, we can fix up the player, fix up their things, and fix up the things that they have. And to do that, we can take actions and take rests. Now, if a player rests at a settlement, there are specific actions that they can do there as well, and that is listed in an appendix back here. And we can go ahead and check that appendix. And there's a little bit more on the flasks, what they are, what they can do. Example turns, we can go ahead and skip that right now. And here is the actions that a player can take at a settlement. So, now that the player has fixed themselves up, they have made themselves safe, and they are at a place where they can make another decision. Now they need to decide on what they want to do in their location, which is the results of their actions, and thus we are back turn around that the players are in a new situation, or they will be in a new situation soon. So, we can make sort of a note of that during the player upkeep phase, but to do the player upkeep phase, I have been doing something like at the end of the day, or in the evening, or at camp, something like that. Now, because that staying in a location and moving back to another location is an action in itself and putting the players in a new situation, after we have gone through upkeep and our entire turn sequence, and players have taken all of their actions, we enter a new day and a new turn, and if the players have decided that, a new location, whether or not they have decided to move onward, decided to move backward, or decided to stay where they're at, we go ahead and do that here by adding a turn number and a day number, and not forgetting our rations. And if we have decided the players have decided to enter a new location, we go right back to defining locations to see where we are at in the broad sense, and then we go from there throughout the turn order If we decided to stay in a location, we do not need to do any of that at all. We simply need to see if we are being hunted or haunted to see if something new has moved into the area. And if it hasn't, then we can go ahead and go to upkeep and take any actions that we want to there, and then decide whether or not what we want to do with our situation, whether or not we want to stay, move back, or move forward. And if we decide to move backward, while we do not need to do the define and detail locations again, we still need to make note that the players moved to a previous location that they visited, and go ahead and describe that location, or to see if anything's changed in that location, which I will go ahead and put into the rules in a little bit. But again, after they get into that location, they again need to see if they're in a haunted location, and then they go through upkeep and take their upkeep actions there. And then again, the turn sequence goes back around. So that is the full and complete turn sequence for Mouse Crawl. And if you need to look at the entire at a turn sequence, or to look at it again, or to look at it more closely, go ahead and pause the video there at that location. I have also put the current rules in the state that they are up in the Mouse Ritter Discord community server. And you can also pause the video and find the rules there. So that is an entire turn sequence, and the next video will be a getting started, and will be a getting started on your first turn and before your first turn video. That is the next thing that I will be covering, and I will be releasing that video soon. Then if you want to support the channel, go ahead and hit all of the buttons over here. And if you want to support the development of the game, you can go to claybrickentertainment.com.itch.io and go ahead and grab any of the things there. Or you can also pre-order this bestiary here, an Underworld Understudy, also at claybrickentertainment.itch.io. So, until the next one, which should be sooner rather than later, I will be seeing you, and I hope to hear more about your adventures soon. So, until next time, I have been Rob, and good luck with your adventures.